Well, hello once again. We are closing in on the startup of this radio. And I'm waiting for the new audio output transformer to come in. And while I am waiting, while we are waiting, we're going to go ahead and test some tubes that I managed to get my hands on. We have Paul's tubes, you know, the one that we did the shout out to. His 6K7 and his 6F6 will be tested. And I have a couple of 6J5s I managed to pick up on eBay. I guess Greg was unable to find the ones he was looking for, but that's okay. Greg has done enough already. You know, I don't want to impose on the guy too much here. Anyway, I managed to pick up a couple of metal 6J5s on eBay, fairly cheap. And I was also able to pick up this 5X4G rectifier tube. Look at the size of that sucker. Anyway, we're going to test them all today. I figured I'd show you a couple of tests. Now, this is one of the 6J5s, and according to this, it's supposed to read 1.7 to 2.6 on the second scale. 1.7 to 2.6, way over in here. Whoa! So let's see what happens when I pull the handle. Oh, way up there. That's a good one. Look at that. My God, that's at maximum. Now, it was brought up in the last time I tested tubes. It said you should first do all of your short checks to find out if the tube is shorted before you pull handles or test the actual emission of the tube. Apparently, if you have a short inside the tube, sometimes they can be so bad that it can, cause a problem with your tube tester. I don't think that would happen with this triplet, but I'm not going to take a chance. This is a very high-end tube tester. So let's go ahead. I've already run through them once. And we'll go ahead and just check them all. Okay, everything's fine on there. No shorts at all. And then I pull it, and she's real good. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. One of the subscribers was right. Test your shorts first before actually putting the tube in gear. Okay. Well, I'm sorry to say that our 6F6 is not doing well. It has a heater to cathode short when I get to this position right here. There it is right there. Heater to cathode short, no good. Can't use that one. Well, that's it. Everything tested good except for this one 6F6. I'm going to have to see if I can't pick up one on eBay. Shucks. Oh, well, the ups and downs, These tubes are supplied by Paul. He did his best to help out, and I appreciate it, but we got one good 6K7, Paul and Greg, they helped out immensely with this, trust me. Also, while we're waiting for the new audio output transformer to come in, I decided to go ahead, this bracket on here, this silver bracket right here, and that phenolic board where all the wires are attached to. I want to save that thing and use it with the new audio output transformer. Well, how do you do that? It's all one part of the transformer. Well, I think I can. First thing we got to do is cut some wires. You know I love to do that if you watch my videos. So let me see here. Let me go ahead and pull this back. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this one, and let me see the last one here. All three of those wires are being cut. We're also going to cut them off. That's the primary. We're also going to cut them off the secondary here and here. There's no sense in trying to unsolder them and everything. You're only going to be boogered up anyway when I get done. So we'll just do the cutting now, save ourselves a lot of time later. So there's the secondary, and the primary's all been cut. Now the question is, how the heck do we get that bracket and that phenolic board off of that transformer? Well, I have an idea. Alright, here's the idea. If you notice right here, the bracket comes down and goes underneath this top cap on this old transformer. Here's the idea. You're going to love this one. I'm going to take my little cutter on my moto tool. Yes, I am. That's what I'm going to do. and I am going to cut across here just like that. Now here's the theory. Are you ready for it? Once I cut through, I should be able to take a screwdriver and kind of pry this thing up a little bit right here, get it up, and then bend the entire thing up out of the way. And once I do that, this bracket should lift right off of it. That's the theory. Let's see if we can put it into practice here. Alright, the first part is complete. I managed to cut right through it. Now you got to be careful using this old moto tool, this rotary tool with that cutter. It threw quite a few sparks and things around. You got to be careful. Make sure you use eye protection anytime you use something like this. Make sure you cover those eyeballs. You only got two. You want to keep them the rest of your life, don't you? Don't run around one-eyed. Alright, she's coming loose. There were a couple of tabs that ran down through some slots on this thing. There was one in the front, one in the rear. Let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh. Alright, both of the rivets have now been ground off. Now, I should be able to take a pair of pliers here. Let me get all these old wires out of the way. I want to make sure these things are up and out of the way before I start messing with these things. I'll just bend them kind of up and out of the way here a little bit. Let's see if I can take this thing and get it off of there without much of a problem. No, it wants to be a problem child. So what I'm going to have to do is get a screwdriver under there and kind of force it up and work my way back and forth with a bigger pair of pliers. But the rivet has been ground off. Now we just get that baby off there. Let me work on it a little bit. And there it is. A big old pair of pliers just popped it right off of there. No problem at all. And the two rivets, what was left of them, fell out into the bottom of the speaker basket. I just shook the speaker basket out and they just fell right out on the towel. I also just finished emptying out these two Bakelite blocks right here and soldering a new 0.03 microfarad capacitor to each one, because there's one capacitor here, 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 and here. They're all individual capacitors. Kind of interesting, this one over here, I've never seen a picofarad capacitor inside of a Bakelite block. I didn't know they did that. But anyway, it's 110 picofarad, and I'm going to put 100 in there. I don't have 110. I'll just put 100 in there, that'll work. Anyway, these two blocks are done, and all I have to do is these two. And I am also happy to report that our new audio output transformer has arrived. Alright, on the schematic there's number 44, and it points right at that capacitor. 110 picofarads right there, 44. Well, that seemed all good to go, right? Let's go up and look at the block. When I look at the block, I should have had, one lead here and one lead here. Just a lead from here to ground. But when we look at that block, we see we have a lead here, just like I thought. Then we have a lead here. See it kind of sticking out underneath all that flux there? There's a lead right there. And then there's looks like two leads to ground. There's only supposed to be one in there. What's going on here? How come I've got, obviously, two capacitors in this little narrow block? Let's go back to the schematic and find out why. Well, right here I showed you 44, 110 picofarads. But if we look down just a little bit further, we see 44A. I didn't even see that the first go round. And there's a second capacitor, 110 picofarads. There are two capacitors in that block, 44 and 44A, both of them 110 picofarads, and they're both connected to ground right there. This one is connected to ground on this side, and the other side over here is connected to ground. Fooled me! So when it comes time to, remove all the guts out of here, I'm going to have to replace this. I'm going to have to put a 110 picofarad from this, or one of these tabs, to ground. Then I'm going to have to put one from the middle to ground. How about that, huh? Lesson learned all the way around, and that's what these videos are all about, okay? Alright, let's get this output transformer, get the wires strung out on it. Let's get it up here and see if the holes will line up at all. See what we've got to do to make this whole outfit work. There we go. Now the reason we chose this audio output transformer, this is we got it on the Antique Electronic Supply, or AES, or they call it tubesandmore.com, and we chose a PT291. I was on my way to go prowl for one when old Brendan had already found it and got back with me. I could have found it on my own, trust me. Anyway, he did it for me. He was Johnny on the spot, and he said, here's the one you need. I said, okay, fine. I went there and looked at it, and sure enough, I went ahead and bought it. And the reason he chose this one is because it has it affords you two different levels of impedance, 4,000 ohms and 8,000. Well, actually more than one. It'd be 4,000, 8,000, and 9,000, depending on the type of speaker that you have. Now here is the information on the 6F6 being used as a Class A amplifier, which is what we have. Sound down here, they're talking about the plate, and we get down here and the load resistance is 7K, or 7,000 ohms. That's the impedance requirement of that tube. The plate on this tube likes to see 7,000 ohms, which is supplied by the primary of the audio output transformer. And we have just a baby that'll do that. According to the data sheet on this audio output transformer, an 8 ohm speaker with an 8,000 impedance would connect. If it was 4,000, it would connect to C and 3, but it's not. We have 8,000, so we need to connect the wires to C and 2. Now C and 2 would be this one and this one, okay, as per the data sheet on this thing. Now apparently this thing can be used with a 4 ohm speaker, an 8 ohm speaker, a 16 ohm speaker, with 4,000, 9,000, and 8,000 ohms of impedance. And they tell you which terminals to use that go into secondary, which goes into the speaker. In our case, it's just C and 2, which is first one and third one. Now that would be this one and this one. But the problem I'm having right now is, now we need to set this bracket. Remember the bracket we took off? We need to set that bracket on there like that and glue it in place. The problem is it's going to hit these tabs sticking up right here. I need to connect these two wires right here coming out of the speaker to C and 2. But they're going to, that bracket's going to hit these terminals. So we need to bend those things forward and down and out of the way of the rest of this. So let me do that with my trusty little duckbill pliers. You know, it works really good. We'll go ahead and bend one right here and just kind of show you. Just kind of put your duckbill plier right there and just kind of come down real easy, like real easy. You don't want to snap that thing off. Once you get it down, and you can kind of like bring it on down nice and slow and easy. Slow and easy. You don't need to put stress too much on it. Slow and easy. Now I'm going to have to do that for all 4 of those terminals. Alright, the tabs are bent down, and what we're going to do is I'm going to rough up the top of this output transformer with sandpaper, just like I roughed it up here. We're going to use some of that JB Quick to glue that on there. Now this thing will set toward the rear. It'll set toward the rear, back toward the field coil. So it will be pretty much out of the way after I remove those wires and reattach the new ones. It'll be out of the way of those tabs. This is going to work out great. We've now soldered the 2 wires to the speaker, soldered them up to C and 2. Okay, that's good to go. Now I'll probably put some liquid tape on there just to protect those. It's easily removable. Well, you know, you can scrape it off if need be, but I think I'll go ahead and do that just to kind of protect it. And because this thing will be eventually, you know, sitting on top there, and I just don't want to take any chance on anything hitting. The next thing we have to do is solder up these 3 wires, and those 3 wires will go to these connectors underneath down here. So let's go ahead and find out what goes where. According to the data on the Philco, the center tap wire comes down and hooks to the green and white wire and the yellow wire that goes over to the field coil. The green and white that goes out here, and the yellow wire to the field coil. Well, let's find that one. There it is right there. That's the yellow wire going into the field coil. It used to be yellow. It's kind of a dirty white now. But anyway, that's the yellow wire going into the field coil, and you'll notice that this is a two-tone wire, which at one time was green and white. We have a white, a black, and a green and white right here. So which one of these wires is the center tap? Because it's got to be, this little stub of a green and white wire is going to have to come off, and the center tap wire of these three, if I can get my pencil underneath that thing down there, these three, which one of these is the center tap? Well, according to the data sheet that I printed off of the Antique Electronic Supply website, the red wire is the center tap, and I've already got it marked. It goes to the green and the white wire. Piece of cake. Well, that only leaves the blue wire and the brown wire, and the brown wire will go to the white wire on that terminal strip, and the brown will go to the black. Blue and brown. So blue is here, brown is here. They'll go to the white and the black, the little stubs of wire. That's why I left those stubs of wire on, so I knew which was which. It made it easier, you know, you can figure it out, it's no big deal. But that's the white wire and that's the black wire. So there we go, center tap, blue wire, and brown wire. So that's blue, brown, center tap. BBC. Well, that ought to make Phil happy over there in England. Now, before I remove these three wires here and replace them with these three down here, I want you to know that I'm not going to be gluing this bracket to the top of this audio output transformer just yet. I'm going to have plenty of flexibility with the wires to enable me, you know, to get it up out of the way, maybe hold it on with a clip or just leave it off to the side, because I want to use that with gator wires when I power up this radio. I just want a gator clip in so I can remove the speaker at will. You know, I'm just going to gator it together instead of plugging everything up, take a chance on breaking anything. When I'm all ready to finally go with this radio, then we'll go ahead and glue this up, and then we'll put that terminal square metal cover over the top, and everything will be fine. Incidentally, this wire right here, this yellow wire that goes to the field coil, you can see from this really crappy solder job that it had been removed at one time and resoldered. This is the factory look right here. Okay, you can see it's not been touched. Right here, really junk. I am happy to report that we now have our radio sitting on the workbench right in front of the old variac and isolation transformer and ammeter and voltage meter, and I also have the speaker over here, and we're just about ready to go, but we can't go yet because I made a boo-boo. A boo-boo, yes, a boo-boo, and it involves the speaker. But you know something, we don't worry about such things. I'm about to fix it, and I'm going to show you why. Alright, here's the deal. Just before I hooked up these two wires to this audio output transformer from the speaker, I went ahead and measured them with the meter just to make sure they hadn't broken or anything, you know, when I was messing with them. Then I said, nope, they're good, you know, and I went ahead and hooked them up to number C, and where did I do my pencil that I point with? There we go. I hooked them up to C and number 2, just like it called for in that paperwork I was showing you. However, after I hooked them up and soldered them, I got thinking. I said, you know, I took that reading, I measured across here, and I didn't get a reading of 8 ohms. What's going on here, you know? So I disconnected it again, and I measured it. No, 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 no. I do not have an 8 ohm speaker here. I'm hoping this is the original speaker. I don't know. What I have here is a 4 ohm speaker, not an 8 ohm. So I have to go back to the drawing board. You know, I had to disconnect the wire from pin 3 right there. And it's now just kind of hanging. I got to figure out, where do we connect that booger? We leave the one on C. No problem there. Let's find out where we have to connect it. Let me see. Let's go down here. Okay, 4 ohm speaker. Well, 4,000 ohms is no good. That sucks. We need 7. So we're going to have to go with the 9,000 ohm hookup. That's close enough. It may be 7, but 9,000 will work better. So I've got to connect it to C, which we already have, and 1. So I'm going to have to get connected to C and 1. Well, we can do that. I'm going to go in now. This is 1. I'm going to go ahead and hook that wire up through there. And then I'm going to solder that in place. Well, that's it. It's all done. It wasn't that easy. Just move it from here to here. Of course it was easy. Alright, we are almost ready for the power up. Today I got in the 2 metal F6s. I will be testing them, and if they work, I'll be sticking them in the radio. And then we'll go ahead and hook up our gator wires. I'm going to put a little insulator. I'm going to put an insulator between this bracket and that magnet there, or that Philco rather. And then we'll go ahead and get everything insulated. I'm going to hold it on with the rubber band, so it'll be easier, you know, to just hook my gator wires with when it comes time to power it up. And I want everybody to understand that from here on out, this is where the danger starts, okay? This is, you know, once we apply, up until now it's been fun and games. You know, we take this off, we solder that in. We don't have to worry about a thing. We change this capacitor. We take this junk out from the insides of the Bakelite block, and we test our tubes and all that other jazz. But now we're getting ready to apply power to this booger. Once we apply power, that's when you have to be very careful. You have to exercise all the safety you have ever learned, okay? You can't be just messing around, poking around, doing the things we've been doing up to this point. You have to be very careful. And I have to warn you, if you don't know what you're doing, and I'm serious about this, if you don't know what you're doing, once you apply power, if you don't know what to do, you don't know how to do it, you don't know what the dangers are, you don't know what the safety requirements are, if you don't know what to avoid to keep yourself from getting injured, then you need to get somebody to help you. Okay, get someone to help you. Stop. Don't try it on your own. And there's some very lethal voltages in here. So we're going to go ahead and knock off this video here. The next video, if all goes well, everybody keep their fingers crossed, because if all goes well, we'll hear some sound from this booger. I just want to hear, some static, if nothing else, okay? Anyway, until next time. This is John.